we're here today talking with Paul Moore, who is the former head of regulatory risk at HBOS and became known as a whistleblower. Paul, in your research, you suggest that the real cause of the banking crisis of 2008 was not in fact technical failures, but failures in culture and ethics. Is that what you found in HBOS as well?
Yes, HBOS had the most sophisticated sort of systems of governance, or apparent systems of governance. More policies that you could add up, more committees than you can add up, 3 lines of defence, more papers for audit committee meetings that you could actually possibly read or understand. So it wasn't for a lack of process and policy and rules that they failed. So it was culture and ethics.
So why do you think that CEOs should listen to the messages about ethical behaviour now? Has something changed? Is something different?
Well, I think that the evidence is now unequivocal that customers only want to deal with good companies, employees only want to work in good companies, and most shareholders, those of us who own the actual shares that the pension funds hold for us, only want those companies to be good. And also, you can't keep a secret any longer, can you? Somebody can Twitter and cause a huge reputational risk to your brand in no time at all. So if they haven't worked it out yet, they jolly well better do. All these clever social responsibility reports, self-serving statements about how good they are, then if they're not true, they will lead to a reputational failure. And the other thing is that there is a moment in time now that the crisis actually caused, where very top leaders are really getting into the debate about how you get value out of values. And Stephen Green gave a great speech at the Mansion House in the summer of 2010 about just that topic. So the zeitgeist is upon us.
And if CEOs really do want to get value out of values, what would you advise them to do to deliver on that?
Well, there's a whole range of things that you have to do. You can't make these values things work in a vacuum. You have to have structure, you have to have process, you have to do things. But I'll just go through 2 or 3. Number 1, you've got to teach people how to think ethically or with values. Most of these great chief executives have wonderful values in their home life. They're perfectly decent people. They wouldn't dream in their home life of doing some of the things that they end up doing in their business life. So they need to be trained. Top to bottom, everybody in the organisation needs to know how to think about these things. And there are very set ways of teaching people how to think through things. You know, the greatest good for the greatest number of people, the golden rule, which is, you know, do as you would be done by, which helps people to talk about values and think about them as they make decisions and as they behave. 1, training. Top 3 layers of the organisation, intensive training, very intensive training. Number 2, I believe that every key strategic document in a regulated firm should have a section in it called ethical considerations taken into account. Now you might think that's a very simplistic approach to things, but you'll be amazed at what it forces the mind to do. And so that's number 2. The other thing that I am incredibly interested in is continuous cultural telemetry measurement. That means, how do you take the Twitter world into the world of employee feedback, not just for bad things, but for good things? And I found a way of doing this so that actually people can speak up all over the place and you can join the dots from one place to the other. So you actually monitor on a continuous basis the cultural telemetry. And you're looking for openness, honesty, you know, all of those key things. And you train people into that whole business. So you make a really big effort. Obviously, then there's compensation systems and everything else that you can think of. But essentially, those are 3 things that I've been talking about recently.
And at the end of the day, shareholders, investors, and employees, indeed, everyone wants companies to make a profit. That's what they're in business for. Why would they prioritise ethical behaviour over delivering profits?
Well, let's look at BP. If you want to think of an example, But there are countless examples now, and although all the research is not there, you can't define an elephant, but you know one when you see one. The point about it is this: unless these executives start to take this matter seriously, they will affect shareholder value, they will affect profitability. There is no discontinuity between doing good and abundance. So they might be waiting for the evidence to prove it to themselves, but if I was them, I wouldn't wait. I'd start doing it, because the companies that don't do it will ultimately lose out.
Okay, thank you.